Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Incision podcast. You will find me this week in a much better mood. The Reds beating Ajax 2-1, looking like their old selves. I'll take that all day long. And on this podcast, you'll hear myself and my co-host. You are my co-host on this podcast. It's a new voice for now. It is Guy Drinkel. Guy, welcome.
A new voice, yeah. That was only true for the poor listeners who've been listening to me.
It is a new voice, because you and I have not done Incision. I think it's been a while since you and I have actually podcasted. So for me, it's new. You know, the producers are getting some airtime. Can we just take a moment to appreciate? But Guy, thank you so much for joining us.
No, anytime. I know Femis has been busy schedule and stuff like that, so I'm happy to help out. And sorry, listeners, it's me again, but I'm happy now. I'm allowed to enjoy football again, so it's not me just being sad for a couple hours of your listening delight.
I know. Tell me about it. And you know what? I actually listened to your Scouted. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, obviously, we all knew Ajax were going to be a big threat. You know, like in a week they scored 9 goals, conceded 0. And when you look at Liverpool's, a form going into this, we were absolutely nervous. I want to get your thoughts in terms of from previewing to reviewing. So 2-1 Reds. Give me your thoughts.
Well, Carl clearly built them up too much. I blame him because he thought we were going to get tonked. I thought they looked quite almost not ordinary is too harsh a word. I just don't think, maybe the gap was just too big. Maybe that is what the realistic gap is, that the Eredivisie just isn't anywhere close. Even if we aren't playing at our best, obviously we improved massively from the Napoli result because it was impossible to play worse. But it just doesn't really matter how well an Eredivisie team is playing, because if we're playing anywhere, say we were 70% at our best in that game, which probably we were, it's still too big a leap. And I think that's probably what the case is. I think they had some good players, which we'll get into as we go along. But just us having Thiago back and then people having an uptick, even if it is 10-odd%, as I say, it was just too much. Obviously, they almost snuck a draw, but regardless, I think the performance, we were clearly the better team.
I have to agree with you. And I think, I think we were all hanging on to Jurgen Klopp's words, weren't we, after the Napoli game, like, it's time to reinvent ourselves. So this was, like, for me, like the acid test of what's going to happen. And for me, it wasn't really a reinvention, Guy. For me, it felt like I was familiar with watching my Liverpool team 8 games into a season. Like, things made sense. Like, I saw Mo Salah in the box in the first minute. You know, things that I'm naturally used to, seeing. And, we will talk about, obviously, their players, but I want to get your thoughts on the starting lineup. I think, a lot of people had a lot of dread. What is he going to do? I mean, what did you make of the starting lineup? We knew Thingy was injured, Robbo, so we knew Tsimikas was going to come in. Happy with the lineup?
I was happy with it. I wasn't really expecting it, to be fair. I thought Jota, if everyone's fit and firing, I think Jota's probably the way to go. But he just didn't look ready in the previous appearances. So I just thought maybe he'd roll with probably Bobby. But I would have wanted Darwin, because I think we do have to start. When you spend that much money, you do have to kind of play him and justify it a bit. But if everyone's fit and firing, I think it is Jota for me, because that's probably the best partnership we've seen with Mo in real life. In real life, in recent years, because Bobby has taken a fall off in the last few years. We know this, whereas Jota and him combined so well at the first half of last season. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I would have maybe taken Elliot out of the firing line. Weird because he's been one of our better players, but
Yeah,
I think people are kind of realizing it is a winger played in midfield, so it kind of doesn't
yeah.
work. But then they have two world-class midfielders with him, so it does work. But yeah, no, I was really happy with it. I think even if Robbo wasn't injured, I would have played Tsimikas. I was asking for Trent to be dropped, and maybe it was lucky the Wolves game got postponed. He did improve, but we'll get onto that as well. But yeah, I would have probably had Gomez at right back, but we do need Trent to find form for the rest of the season, don't we? So fair enough on that one, I think.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. I was really, really intrigued to see what he was going to do in midfield as well. I thought if he I just thought he would not pick Milner, and we were proven correct. And yeah, it was great to see Thiago back. Fab, incredible to have him. So let's kind of talk about some of these performances because I think, it started off really well. I'll start off with the things that kind of impressed, the kind of players that I was like really particularly impressed with. And, I'm going to give some names and I'd like you to kind of like, share your insight and thoughts as well. Like I thought it was, first of all, let's just go from Salah. I thought he started looking more involved, less isolated. He was offering some creative output. He looked aggressive. I thought he was giving Blind a bit of a torrid time. He was actually cutting in, he was running in. It looked like the shackles were off on him. And it was almost like he got that hunger back, like wanting to get into the box, wanting to commit himself, wanting to get involved in the attacking sense. And I think that was probably largely down to what you kind of highlighted there with having a player like Jota in there as well. But, again, I thought that front three, the blend was really good. And of course, all three were involved with the first goal as well. And, Ali with, his long range passing. But, I thought Salah was incredible. What did you make of the front three?
Yeah, I think collectively they worked really well. I think Diaz, it was weird. I think Diaz had like really effective moments like that. I think there was that one where he skinned someone out on the byline, but he was probably the most quiet of the three. Jota was just quietly efficient, I think. He never really, I can't remember him looking like scoring, but he just kind of knitted stuff well together. I think Klopp worded it best in his post-match. He's kind of like in between what Bobby and Nunes is, and I think that's kind of what we needed.
Yeah.
We needed the fear factor, but also the link play. But Mo, I think, yeah, he's the one to focus on in the front three because we know the levels and the lack of form, and that's where the levels come into it. Because when he plays badly, it's like you were the best player in the world like a year ago, mate. Whereas, yeah, I think everything you've said there, I agree with. He's just playing. It's not about playing narrower. I can't speak. It's just where he moves into the ball, because he always plays wide, but this season so far, he's basically been holding hands with the assistant referee.
Yeah, he's not been cut through or anything, has he? He's not making the runs in. He's just been staying there and not really being effective. I get that.
It's just staying out there. It doesn't really do anything, especially the way our front three operates, with him being the main goal threat. Whereas in this one, you're absolutely right. He destroyed Blind. Him and Bassey had a bit of a war, seeing as I think he physically picked up Salah about 4 times in that game. But yeah, it was just really good to see him back. And that's what we like from Salah. Obviously, we don't want to see him having a war with a centre-back every time, but at least it's a centre-back. It's not getting pocketed by, oh God, I don't even know what the Napoli left-back's called, but struggling with like Tariq Mitchell at Palace. Malacia pocketed him for United. We didn't even hear about him till last year, or till the summer, I should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just nice that he's picking up them areas and you're actually noticing him. And I think that is the big change, as you said. He literally was anonymous in most of the other games where he wasn't playing too well. Obviously, he picked up the odd goal, playing against Bournemouth. I know he didn't score, but he missed a few open goals. But this is probably the best game of the season where you literally noticed him every time we went forward. So yeah, that's the best thing from it, and hopefully we keep him in them areas, because it clearly wasn't working what we were doing in the other games.
Absolutely, and it was great to see him score. But you know what? As cliche as it sounds, Guy, games are won and lost in midfield. Yes, I went there. And can we just take a moment to appreciate what was going down in our midfield against Ajax? Because it was a Thiago Alcantara masterclass. It really was. He pretty much controlled the tempo of that game, and he pretty much dictated the middle of the park. And in him doing so, I felt like that really gave Fabinho the license to do what he does best. It was just so good seeing Fab come into his own, because he had somebody really, really competent in Thiago. But Thiago was just absolutely magnificent. He was just. I did a Media Matters with Jonathan Northcroft, and it'll be out tomorrow. It'll be after this podcast, so I'll give you a little snippet into that, Guy and listeners. And we were kind of talking about just that moment in the first half where I think Elliot plays him a bit of a dodgy pass, and he takes it on, and like he's got two players really close by him, and the way he kind of controls it and navigates himself out of trouble, and then plays this small little pass back to Elliot. You know, it's those kind of things that you really appreciate, you take for granted. And because Thiago's been out of the equation for so long, I was like watching his off the ball movement as well, and I was just like, wow, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think people, when we signed Thiago, I think everyone thought he's going to transform our midfield in the things that he does with the ball, and he absolutely does. But in terms of how he's replaced Wijnaldum, because I think that's what he obviously was, he can do all the stuff Wijnaldum did off the ball in terms of covering Fab, and we saw that to great delight in this game. He's just excellent at basically everything. He's just made out of Pringles. That is literally the only thing. Yes. He's literally a unicorn of a player, where he is 1 in a million. Like, he's basically not a real person. And just the one weakness is that, well, I'm going to blame Pep Guardiola, because I can't. He basically ruined him at Bayern when he overplayed him when he was injured, and now ruined him for us. Yeah, he's just the perfect midfielder, except the injury record. And you see in this game, like, I don't know why, I must have just been down in the dumps or off my head or something. On one of the main pods, I argued, I brought up the point. Obviously, I think this was before the Naby saga really took form. I thought of an argument where you could probably get rid of Thiago and maybe keep Naby, because we rely so much on Thiago that him not being available for even like 70% of the games is such an issue. Whereas Naby, he's basically back up for two positions. Whereas Thiago, it's like, if he doesn't play, the team doesn't work. And that's what we've seen this season. And that's the issue. We need to find, if we are to build the midfield around him, which, if we're keeping him, we deservedly so. And the way he spoke I'm not sure where it was, but I saw a quote on one of them Twitters that tweets little press conferences and interviews and stuff like that, saying how he loves the team, loves the city, etc. So I'm guessing he's staying, hopefully, beyond this contract. We've got to find someone who can back him up and is happy to do that, because again, if Naby wasn't made out of crisp Pringles himself, he could do that perfectly, because he has parts of his game. But yeah, we see it when it's Milner, it just doesn't work. So yeah, he's literally 1 in a million, and it's mad, because before he joined Liverpool, everyone was in love with Thiago. He's joined Liverpool, and it always happens, because it always does. Rival fans and neutral fans just go, well, he's overrated, all he does is pass. He literally controls the game on his own. It is mental, the impact he has on him. But as any game we go in with him fit, I'm confident. If he's not in the team and it's not a certain backup, I'm literally terrified. It literally ruins football for me when he's not playing. That's how good he is.
He's that good, I'm happy to give him my hamstring.
I don't need them. He can have them.
He can have them. He can have them. He is that good. And Yeah, and it's really important to have that kind of control in that midfield against that Ajax team as well, with the players that they've got in their midfield, right? Alvarez and Berghaus and, Taylor, you needed control, because otherwise it could have been like basically just chaos like it was against Napoli. So absolutely crucial. I mean, I've kind of spoke about two kind of players there. Before I come to you and ask you which other players impressed you, first of all, can we all just take a moment to appreciate how nice it was to go ahead against a team that was actually pretty decent? I can't think of the last time that happened this season. I don't think it has happened. I think it's
only Bournemouth. I think
it's only Bournemouth.
Yeah.
So let's give some credit there. But over to you, Guy. I mean, who impressed you?
I think I've got two. I think I had one that had to take his opportunity, and that's Tsimikas.
Of course.
Because we know Robbo will probably come straight back into the team. But if Tsimikas keeps these runs going, there'll be more clamber from fans to see basically get an even rotation with Robbo, which isn't at the minute. But he was just pretty much perfect in everything he did. He was really good defensively.
Yep.
Obviously, their goal was more of a right side issue, which we'll probably come on to.
Yep.
But he was good going forward. He combined well with Thiago and Diaz. I think the fullbacks were slightly less attacking in this game, which might be an interesting tactical tweak because, well, we know the issues we've had in them areas so far this season. But I thought he was just really competent, and when he was basically a 7 out of 10. And that's what Robbo built his Liverpool career on. Obviously, he has the odd magnificent game, but the difference between Robbo and every other left-back we've had basically in my lifetime is consistency. Just being a 7 out of 10 every week, getting the odd 8 and 9 out of 10. And that's what Tsimikas is kind of doing at the minute. And I'm not sure how long Robbo's out for, but if Tsimikas keeps getting opportunities like this, there'll be clamber from the fans to make him first choice. Maybe not from Klopp just yet, but it's almost at the stage that Robbo's not lack of inconsistent form is going to get highlighted the better Tsimikas plays. So I think that's an interesting one. The other one I'd flag up is Joel Matip. He was just like a gazelle coming out of defence with that ball.
I'm going on adventure.
He's just literally full on Bilbo going a hunt on there. He's just. The thing is, I like Gomez. We all remember the 18-19 season where he was fantastic in the first half of the season. I think Ibu has levels to come, so that's a scary thing about this. But when Matip's in the team, there's just a different source of outplay. Is that even a word? But just the way we play. Because when he's not there, Gomez can pass, Van Dijk can pass, but Matip can pass, and he can go on these adventures where he 1-2s with everyone.
I can't believe which pod it was, but somebody said that Virgil van Dijk eggs him on to do it. I can't. And I just found that absolutely hilarious. But those two players that you kind of highlighted there, I have to agree with you. And I think with Tsimikas, I think a lot of things that people maybe criticised him for in the past was probably his defensive work. They all knew that, he had a good cross on him. He was quite effective on set pieces. And defensively, I don't think he put a foot wrong, against Ajax on Tuesday. Another thing I kind of noticed as well, you kind of spoke about the fullbacks not being as creative. But something that I kind of noticed was in the first half, I felt like Trent and the right hand side was maybe more involved in the attacking side of things.
Yeah.
And in the second half, I felt like it was Tsimikas and from the left hand side where maybe a lot of the attack was coming from. I don't know, I maybe have to go back and watch the game, but that was my initial thoughts on it. But I think it has come to a stage now where like you said, the guy's taken his opportunity and he stepped up, and it's probably the kick up Robbo's ass that he needs, because I don't think Robbo has been effective in an offensive sense for Liverpool.
No, that's the thing. I think you can almost forgive the lack of attacking intent because we've had Trent on that side. He finished the season so strong, whereas Robbo probably didn't. It was almost this season in particular where the defensive lapses came from Robbo. It wasn't as embarrassingly bad as Trent being horrendously lazy against Napoli, for example, but just little mistake, like not holding the line. That's kind of crept into his game since we since we ran out of centre-backs that season. That seemed to, I think it's Dave's theory that he had to become the defensive leader, and then he had to hold the line, etc. And he's kind of not gotten out of that phase of you all follow me, and he seems to be deeper than everyone else. But yeah, that's the thing. I think Robbo definitely has a higher ceiling at the minute, but we've not really seen that ceiling in a little while. Whereas Tsimikas, well, and most importantly, Tsimikas can take a corner because Robbo really can't, which helps. But yeah, I think you're probably right on the fullbacks almost swapping, because at half time Trent was definitely more involved defensively, because there was a good few tackles on Steven Bergwijn, who we all know from his Spurs days, but. Trent first half, I think we all saw it in the attacking phase. He had a few long range shots, some nice passes and stuff like that. But he was obviously caught out of position for their goal, and part of that again. But in the second half, he basically had that position on lock, but he wasn't as involved going forward. So maybe we just still got to find the balance of that, and maybe we're thinking, because we played a 2 in midfield that half, didn't we?
Yeah.
So if we go in the future playing a more of a 2, because we have more attackers now, yeah, maybe the fullbacks have got to dovetail a bit more than previous seasons, which I'm all for, to be honest, because I think maybe teams have figured out, well, we know where the space is, it's where the fullback should be. So I'm all for that now.
Absolutely, and you kind of touched on something there. So we start off as a 4-3-3, and we'll get to their equaliser in a minute. But we start off on a 4-3-3, then we go to a 4-2-3-1. The 2-man midfield, and again that gives Klopp tactical flexibility with the certain players that he has, so you can change it up. Another thing that really impressed me, I mean, there's been a lot of players for Liverpool, throughout the season where the big names haven't really been performing, and one that actually has been for me decent has been Alisson. And something that really impressed me in this game was and this again adds another dimension to how we attack. Something that I think we've all been critical of Liverpool of is the fact that we can be quite slow and quite sluggish. I love the fact that he was trying to make us quick in transition, trying to do that whole find the player, find the attacker, play that ball precise to his feet. He at one point he found Diaz, second time he found Jota, but I like that as well. I like the fact that we were going back to that way, because let's never ever forget that assist by Alisson to Mo Salah against Man United. But I like that as well. I like the fact that we threw that into the mix as well.
Yeah, and absolutely, we seemingly found out their right back, our left hand side, was probably their version of Trent, where he buggers off, and it just worked a T, because Diaz is good in the air, Jota's good in the air, and Mo found the space, and to be fair, there was even a couple more where Jota almost screwed up a couple easy passes which could have sent Mo through. So it's something we clearly exploited. But yeah, Alisson. Everyone bangs on about Ederson and stuff like that, and maybe he's more eye-catching in what he does. But Alisson, in terms of, he's just better at everything apart from maybe the fancy kicks. That's about it. But he is just a perfect keeper. He's best in the world at pretty much everything, and I wouldn't trade him for a word.
Yeah, and he's pretty much the one that started off the attack for our first goal, right? The ball to Diaz.
Yeah, absolutely. But pre-assist for a goalkeeper, it's the good old days. And to be fair, I think Mulby talked about it with Trev. It's just they never used to do that, as he was talking about Bruce Grobbelaar. I think there was a story how Bruce, before they went out on the field, had to kick the ball at the light switch to turn the lights on or off. And Jan said, I'd do that in 3 goes, mate. And he said to us, sat there for half an hour waiting for it. So it's like, yeah, I think Ali would have been one who'd do it in 2 or 3 goes as well. And that's just the difference in goalkeeping nowadays. But yeah, that's the thing. We look at it as fans and like, ooh, a goalkeeper, whereas it must be a nightmare for other teams thinking, well, their goalkeeper is a quarterback. So what the hell? We're going to have to be set from every time we lose the ball to a keeper. It's a class weapon to have, but it's an interesting weapon to have, because you can start an attack from anywhere on the pitch with him. It's just great. It's great to have.
It really is. And can I just drop a little side note before we get to their equaliser? So, stereotypically, when you think of Ajax, you ever think of young talent, don't you? Am I right?
You absolutely do. You do.
Yeah.
I know where you're going with this.
And then I was looking at their goalkeeper, and I was like, why does he remind me of Robbie Savage? How old is he? If he's 23, I'm just gonna like throw myself out the window right now. And then I find out that he's quite mature. He's 38, but like literally everything was just being hit at him, and like the commentators were making it out as though he was absolutely exceptional. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say he's a bad keeper. That's not for me to say, but I just found it very, very interesting that they had a mature guy between the sticks.
Well, that's the thing. When I did the preview with Carl, it was like, oh, Passphere. I've never heard that name in my life. Oh, he's 40. I think he's 38-year-old. Like, what? And the backup Stecklenburg, who's 112-year-old as well. It's like, you must not have any young Dutch lads coming through then.
Bringing up the average age of Ajax to about 27 there.
Just so they don't qualify for under-18s football or something like that.
Yeah, I just thought I had to go there. Okay, I'm glad we've addressed that. Right, let's go to their equaliser, because I thought we looked very much in control, and we looked quite composed. I felt like we were doing everything right. Just wasn't quite working in terms of shots being hit at the keeper. I think we had 24 shots, right, altogether in the game. But either the keeper saving them, or we just didn't look as sharp in front of goal. But they get a goal, and yeah, let's talk about that, because again, right-hand side, and we do go there, and people will say these things. I mean, it was an absolutely stunning goal by Kudus, Kudus. Oh my God, and I've turned into flipping Steve McManaman. Mohamed Kudus, absolutely lovely goal, but a simple pass. And that's what and again, positional awareness. And I know a lot of people have slagged off Trent, and and I guess he could have been a bit more switched on to that. But for me, that just kind of screamed the fact that he needs like some kind of backup, or they need some kind of backup on the right hand side. And you touched on it, Elliot. As great as he has been this season for us, we actually don't need a wing. We shouldn't really be playing a winger there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Elliot can play. I think we just got to tinker the role a bit, because I think we've seen that in the second half. We start, even before we made the subs, I think Elliot changed a bit to a number 10, and we saw how it worked quite a bit better. But yeah, in terms of the goal, I'm watching it right back now, because I wasn't expecting to do this podcast, or I would have watched it earlier, but it's just... Trent's caught kind of between looking at the ball and tracking a man, but nobody's really pressing the bloke who's passing the ball. So it's a bit... I'd imagine that's Elliot's man. I'm not going to sit down and break down a replay whilst I'm on pod. But it's just a breakdown in the pressing, I think, rather than that. Because I think Trent has his mind, do I go press him? Or is that someone else's job whilst the bloke he should be is behind him already, and Matip's can't. Then there's the knock-on effect of Matip's out of position. Van Dijk's got three people. It's a worldy finish regardless. So it's oh God, it's kudos for Kudus. Jesus Christ!
Oh God, get in the bin.
I do. We've both gone Steve McManaman. It's all right, Fletch. God, but yeah, it was just it's a small breakdown, but it's an excellent finish. And as we said, it improved in the second half. So I think it's clearly something Klopp's seen in the game, is that was the one area they probably got in and changed it. And I think, to be fair, I thought Fabinho was excellent in the game, but in the second half, I think he could just dominate the game and on himself. We mentioned Thiago, but Fab was dominant in this game as well. But yeah, it's still until Trent's role changes, I think it's always going to be part of our game that the right back situation is just a point of weakness, because he has to play as a playmaker. He basically has to play as a right centre mid, a right winger, and a right back at the same time. And we've obviously thought, well, we'll risk it with less protection than we used to. And I think we're still trying to find, even last year when we nearly won every bloody trophy possible, there was still that there, because Henderson wasn't playing the same way Henderson used to. So yeah, I think it's just going to be, I think it's almost a gamble we've taken that Trent's amazingness will outweigh any defensive lapses. And to be fair, this is an out of form Trent. When he's on form, the defensive issues aren't as big. They're still there. It's still our point of weakness, but he's still a good defender. But when he's just out of form, and I think the Napoli game was the boiling point for most, because it was laziness rather than lack of ability. But we saw in the second half, he can defend. He can pocket defenders. So I don't think of it an issue. I think it's almost a lack of form. But we saw in the second half. I don't think there's anything overly to worry about when he gets back on form.
I have to agree with you. And then obviously we go into the second half, and it starts off with a bang instantly, doesn't it? I mean, I think it's Ajax that go on a counter around about 46 minutes, and Salah runs back, tracks him back, and he kind of falls down on himself, and then we kind of counter attack right back, and Jota with a shot at the keeper, but we started off so well, and then for me the game started kind of finding rhythm and started fizzing out around about 57 minutes, and it took Jurgen Klopp to kind of make those subs, and of course Jota, Elliott off, and Nunes and Bobby on. So we go to the 4-2-3-1, and I want to get your thoughts on I want to go there because I feel like you have to. Of course, Nunes comes on, and around about 80 minutes, he misses a bread and butter chance for him. He should have done better.
Yeah.
We can all agree on that. But what I didn't like, and then after that, it's also worth noting that he pretty much from the left-hand side gets the ball and plays the ball across to Diaz for a tap-in, and he kind of fails to kind of connect with it. So, instantly he's he didn't shrink there. But I don't like this whole idea of he's not doing, he's flopping or he's failing and he's a waste of money, and I don't like that. I just feel like, he's literally just been thrown into something here, and our key players have not been performing. So where's he supposed to get his inspiration from? And I love the fact that when he missed that chance, that Mo Salah went up to him and just kind of touched his arm, better look next, you'll do better next time, rather than
don't worry, mate, I do it all the time.
yeah, do you know what I mean? But I want to get your thoughts in terms of how it tactically changed up when we went to a 4-2-3-1. It was nice to see, the fact that Klopp had that luxury of those kind of attackers on the bench. But yeah, seeing Nunes on.
Yeah, I'll speak about Nunes himself in a sec. But in terms of the formation change, I think it's something fans have been wanting for a while, and I think when Klopp first joined, we played 4-2-3-1 in the Europa League season, didn't we? And we couldn't control anything unless Emre Can had the best game of his career, which probably was the peak of his career, was the first couple of years under Klopp. But yeah, I think if we, as I said when we did the Thiago bit, as long as we've got them two in midfield, we can play two in midfield, probably one in midfield. No, that's probably too far. But we can play two in midfield with them two. I'd probably say Naby could do it, but not that level. Henderson, maybe, but he's never really played that formation in his career. But yeah, I think it gave us more control, but I think it did, because as you mentioned before them changes, the game did start off as a bit of a back and forth basketball match. That's a phrase I'm looking for. But it did give us more control, but maybe it took a smidge away from our cutting edge. But as you said, we did have them chances. We had a couple headers that literally all went straight at the goalkeeper for whatever reason. That Nunes shot / cross, that was, to be fair, that was a good save by the keeper that just put it out of Diaz's reach. Diaz, I wish they had slightly different names so they don't sound so safe. Darwin, that chance he should have scored. But in terms of Darwin's time at Liverpool, it's a tough one because we all saw him in that Benfica semi-leg where he literally battered us and roasted us. And I think everyone just wanted that. And nobody can play like that all the time. like even Haaland, he's scoring all these goals, but he's kind of anonymous, which you'd all take, but he's anonymous in everything else. Whereas our forwards can't do that. They literally can't do that. So you see it with Darwin. I think he's trying too hard. I think that's probably the issue because you saw it before he G'd up the crowd after that miss. He was like doing stupid little fouls where he had someone cornered, then pushed him in the back, and it's like, mate, that's just stupid. That I know the ref shouldn't be blowing for it because it is a human being falling on the floor for no reason, but they just do. But I think it will come for him because I think the only thing that's going against Darwin is every other forward we've signed that's been a starter has started so well under Klopp. Mane, that Arsenal game was destructively amazing. Mo, I think his first game was Watford where he played well and got a goal and so forth. But obviously Darwin had the Community Shield, but beyond that, well, the Fulham game as well, then he headbutted someone like a knobhead. So, yeah.
So bad.
Yeah, so I think that's the main thing going against Darwin is everyone else we've signed in that area had such an excellent start to their Liverpool careers, whereas he's had an iffy one, but mainly because he headbutted someone. But yeah, it's not good. But he's still building, and I think everyone can see what he's bringing to the table. But at the minute, I think we do have to expect a bit of Project Klopp where he gets the 6 months. Similarly, Robbo, similarly to Fabinho, not everyone's a Tiara who walks straight in the team or whoever. So I think he'll probably be the first signing in a little while who will take boot camp Klopp for a little bit because, as I said on the starting 11 bit, I as long as Jota's up to speed, I'd just roll with that three that started at the min. But he's a chaos maker from the bench, which is it's not something we've had other than Origi in certain games where he's a peak Origi. But, yeah. I think he's replaced Origi for time being, but there is clearly levels to that at the min.
Yeah, he's genuinely got the quality. Yes. So I just think, like you said, I think I didn't even think about that he might just potentially just be trying too hard. And some players probably just instinctively just good. I think Sadio Mane, when he had time to think, he was dreadful. That's just me, my thoughts on a player like Sadio Mane. I think some players just naturally instinctive, and maybe he just needs to tap into that rather than overthinking things and thinking about the price tag and thinking, oh my God, everyone's watching me. Oh my God, I play for Liverpool. This is my big break. Like, just allow it and just play your game. And also, I think, again, stylistically, he will adapt to us. So, those kind of things happen around by 80 and 84 minutes. And I felt like something within me that a goal is coming because we had so many set pieces. And like you said, everything is being hit at the keeper. And, we kind of speak about, another corner, and it comes from, the deflected shot from, a Salah shot that deflects off at Bassi's eyes, and they are huge, by the way. They put Yapstam has not got the big thighs compared to Bassi. Just putting that out there. But of course, corner Shimikas, and you're like thinking, oh gosh, our centre backs, they're just pretty much not doing much here. And then here comes Joel Matip. he heads it goes over the line. Obviously, the defender tries clearing it, but it was clear that it went over the line. And just the celebrations that proceeded afterwards. I mean, I went crazy, but him, my word.
He's just a walking meme of a human, isn't he? He's fantastic. No context, Joel Matip is just if that isn't Joel Matip running that account, I'll be so disappointed. He's just fantastic. And that's the thing. Remember when Ibu scored like 4 games in a row and everyone was like, Jesus Christ, what is this? That went away. Now our centre-backs can't do that anymore. But thank God he connected with one. When he got cleared off the line, I was like, it's just one of them days. But fortunately, it was quite quick. I think even the assistant ref flagged it, which was a first for them referees in that game getting something right.
At one point, I thought he forgot his cards, God. He was penalising Fab for the most stupidest things, and Thiago as well. It was just, it was nonsense. He was nonsense. Portuguese referee, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure what his name was, but
Diaz, I think it's called Diaz. I don't know his name, but yeah.
He's probably from Wolves. That's probably the problem. Yeah. It's just, oh God, it's so much relief because the thing is, we'd all be coming on these podcasts, us doing this raw. It'd be like, we played well, but we didn't get the result. Now we've got to play Rangers twice, and they're obviously dreadful, which we'll talk about in a sec. But there'll be so much pressure on them games. Whereas now we can go into the Rangers games going, well, we're on 3 points. We can count on ourselves now. Whereas if we had 1 point going this way, like we literally have to beat Rangers home and away. We still probably do if we want to top the group, because then we'll have to beat Napoli, obviously. But it just takes so much pressure off because you don't want to have to just go in. We have to win 4 games on the bounce.
I actually think we're very fortunate that we've got Rangers back to back now, because I think we can all agree that they are probably the weaker opponent. I like the fact that Napoli and Rangers are going, Napoli and Ajax are going to have to battle it out, I think that kind of decides like first and second for us. But you're absolutely spot on, and I have checked the referee's name. He's called Artur Diaz.
Oh God, just mixing all our players together in one there. Yeah, I don't want to see him again because I know so. Well, I think we get bad refs every week because the Premier League ones are dreadful. But I'm normally not, bar the odd one where it's like a complete disaster. The Champions League ones normally aren't that offensive, whereas he was. Like, I think didn't Kudus have 3 handballs or 4 handballs? I think it's like, what is going on? Just a weird ref. Never again.
Never again. We don't want to see that again. Right. So that was us, 2-1. Any final thoughts on that one before we move on to the next one?
I'm just allowed to have fun with football again, but then it's the international break, so I'm not allowed fun again.
I know. It's a pain in the ass. Right, let's quickly talk about the other game in our group. Rangers 0, Napoli 3. Zielinski, obviously 2 penalties saved. Speaking of oldie but goldies between the sticks, McGregor, 40 years old. It was looking like it was going good for him, but of course then it all kind of went a bit tits up because Napoli just applied the pressure, and I think that pretty much went how we kind of expected it to.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I didn't watch the game. I had the goal show on, so I was watching all the goals at the same time. That the penalty incident was just mental. But yeah, I think Rangers with their Europa League run last year, they obviously had the power of Ibrox. Getting beat 3-0, getting a man sent off by Napoli missing their main striker, we should add. It's maybe the power of Ibrox is set for Thursday nights rather than midweeks. But yeah, it probably gives us confidence because I think it may mean more because it's more domestic and there'll be a bit more heated rivalry in there, especially with the Queen stuff, which I imagine will get flagged up every 2 minutes before the game. But yeah, it's just good. I think it's good for everyone going, well, it's just a stadium. There's still a crap SPL team. Not to be disrespectful, but the SPL is crap. we have to treat it as so. I think that's how we have to go into that game.
Yeah, and of course, like Celtic have. I do feel kind of bad for them because I feel like both the Scottish teams have got quite tough groups. If I'm being honest, well, which group is very easy. Let's be honest, but yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward standard stuff. From Napoli. I think them and Ajax now are probably in a battle. Right, let's kind of move along swiftly. Right, Sporting versus Spurs 2-0. Sorry, I found this hilarious. Purely because I think Richarlison was probably their most effective forward, but he was constantly being caught offside. I think there's a lot of eyes on. Is it Marcus Edwards?
Yes, the young English lad.
Just for that little dribble that he did and went past the entire Spurs midfield and defence and takes a shot. But I think Sporting left it very late. Corner, Paulinho scores. 90 on the 90th minute with a header. And then even in injury time, Spurs switched off and Gomez gets a goal. But Spurs, looking a bit Spursy there.
Conte just doesn't like European football, does he? I didn't know this game was on, otherwise I would have watched it, because I was literally just chilling, waiting for our game, and then said, "Oh, Spurs have lost late," and I'm like, "You could have told me this game was on, and I would have watched it." Yeah, I think it was on like BT Sport 4 or something, so you have to go up to about 500
That's
for
my
the
edit,
channel.
but yeah.
Yeah. So no, but it's not good for Spurs. Let's look at their table. To be fair, Frankfurt and they've already beaten Marseille. Obviously, it's just I don't think it'll matter. Maybe it may cost them top spot or something like that, but they should really get through that group with rotation. So maybe this is just a blip in an away game rather than a home game.
I do think that's quite a fun group, and Marseille, I mean, like they're doing really well in their domestic league, right?
Yeah.
They are pushing Paris Saint-Germain, like they're equal on points, and it's just not quite happening for Igor Tudor and Marseille in Europe. But Frankfurt getting a win there away from home, good to see, Europa League winners. So I think that group could be potentially very exciting. If Spursy go all Spursy, it's fun. Trust me.
That's the thing. That's the thing. They should win that group comfortably, but it's Spurs, so they probably won't. But you'd think the other three games, I think everyone deemed it almost the Europa League group when it came out. But yeah, it should be quite a fun tie. But as you say, if Spurs and Conte's record, they should all be quite interesting games, especially if BT tell me when they're on.
Oh, look at that. That's it. You know what? You're going to have to keep in contact with Dave Hendrick. He'll tell you.
Well, that's the thing. He didn't. I record every bloody word he says, and you didn't tell me. He probably did. I wasn't
slipping. Right, let's Bayern versus Barca. I think that was like your group of death, right? And
yeah.
You know what? I actually obviously it finished 2-0. Hernandez with a goal, and of course Leroy Sané finished things off. But I thought Barca, it's a funny one, right? Because I felt like they were just trying to be too like fancy. Like I don't know, like they did have chances. They had chances, and I just feel like, maybe they were like trying to overthink it, maybe trying to be too Barcelona. Like I think Pedri had a few chances.
Yeah, I haven't really seen. I've seen Sané's goal. I haven't seen the highlights from this, but I think Dave was saying Barca were probably the better team for most of the game.
Yeah, Lewandowski had a couple of chances missed as well. Like things that you'd expect him to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just nerves against his old team or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's an odd one. It's an odd one with Barca because we have no idea how good they are. But is a 2-0 loss to Bayern failing their first test? Because didn't they get beat 6-0 over 2 games last year or something like that?
I agree.
So it'd be interesting to see what they do once the million players settle in.
This is very, very true. And the other team in that, I call it the group of death. Victoria Pilsen 0 Inter 2. I think that was a result that we kind of expected. So let's just move on from that one, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's move on. This one shocked me. Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen. So Leverkusen versus Atletico Madrid 2-0.
Yes, and I think Leverkusen are struggling in the Bundesliga as well.
Yeah, they sat quite,
toward the bottom.
Yeah. And go on.
So I was just going to say, again, I don't want to parrot Dave too much, but he obviously loves Simeone, and anyone who was on the Discord before we recorded, there was at least 5 minutes of Dave and Harinder and Trev arguing about Simeone for whatever reason. But yeah, I think he's been there 11 or 12 years now, and maybe it's just the end of his time there. I'm not saying he'll get sacked because that would be disrespectful to probably their best ever manager. But maybe they just need a clean break for both their sakes and just have a fresh start, because that used to be maybe not, because they had that year where they won the league and then got to a final, didn't they? But
Yeah,
they've always just been a pain in the ass for anyone in Europe.
yeah.
But if you're getting beat 2-0 by a lower low down Bundesliga team, it's not Atletico Madrid anymore. And apparently they're playing Axel Witsel at centre back, which just blows my mind. Why? Yeah, but yeah.
Not a very Diego Simeone kind of move, right?
No, maybe he's just given up and went, you're tall and you've got big hair, get back there, you prick.
You're not going to argue with that, man.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think of him. I think this, again, I think it was Justin on the preview show that said this group could be potentially fun. It's like a hipster kind of group, but Porto 0, Bruges 4, and Bruges just sat on top of the group.
Simon Mignolet's dream team. It's just an odd one. I think Justin is right. It's a hipster's dream, but Bruges, I have no, other than Simon Mignolet jokes, I've got nothing.
Yeah, there isn't anything. I mean, I will say, like, obviously I did catch up with the highlights, but Porto's defending was quite shocking. Like, I can't lie, but Bruges are just taking everything as they are, and, fair play to them, right?
Well, that's the thing. They're probably one more win away from qualifying, at least second. So fair enough for them getting a Belgian team into the round of 16. Obviously, you got to get lucky with the draw or whatever, but a Belgian team getting through, that'd probably be massive. Obviously, we're both in the UK, so we can't really speak, but that must be first time in a long while that's happened.
Yeah, I can't think as well. So yeah, and it'd be huge. Let's move on, and we'll talk about the English games, the English teams. City Dortmund, right? You know what? This one really intrigued me because I thought it obviously finished 2-1 to City. I'm just gonna say this, but only Man City can probably spend 100 million on a shit player like Jack Grealish, and they could quietly phase him out, and nobody will ever know about it. He's utterly dreadful. I just don't see why they paid that much money for him. They started with him and Mahrez with Haaland, and I don't think it worked. I thought defensively, Dortmund handled them really well. I thought Emre Can had a pretty decent game. I just thought Dortmund looked very composed. I thought the two centre-backs did really well as well. And Pep Guardiola seems to have a fetish for Dortmund players. He did it at Bayern Munich, and he's doing it here as well. Gundogan, Haaland, Akanji, Pep Guardiola likes a Dortmund player. I think, that's one thing that we've observed. But yeah, Jude Bellingham to start things off. And then, Pep Guardiola makes those subs. He gets really angry, brings on the players that he needs to. And Stones and that man Haaland against his former team.
Yeah, it's all right when you can take off £160 million worth of winger and put on, well, Foden obviously came through the academy, but he'd probably cost upwards of 100 mil now. And whatever they bribed the Dortmund goalkeeper with, so let's say 10 mil, because that bloke's taking a brown envelope somewhere. God, like the second one, fair enough, because Haaland, he should not be able to contort that way when he's 6'5" and a tank. Yes. But the John Stones one, he literally waves it in, so investigate that one, UEFA. But no, I was watching the goal show, so I didn't see in terms of how everything played. But Bellingham with the clever header, John Stones just thought, I'll have a go, and so did the goalkeeper. But that Cancelo pass, that is filthy. That was just absolutely disgusting. And to be fair, Haaland, as I said, contorting that way, you shouldn't be able to do that. But that Cancelo pass, it was just I think Chan passed the ball out on the left, didn't he? But he was clearly passing to the bloke over, and I'm not sure who the player was, but the other one took it and knocked it back to Man City. And then it was just kind of Cancelo was in too much space. And yeah, that bloke went from being just some random person who got bought for loads by Juve, and he's just turned into basically the left back version of Trent. Obviously he's right-footed, but yeah, that pass is probably only him and Trent could do from that position.
Yeah, Absolutely. I was a bit gutted because I thought, oh my God, Dortmund, you might be able to do something. But yeah, Man City just showing their quality and having a lethal machine in Haaland. We'll move on to their other two teams in their group. Finished 0-0 between Copenhagen and Seville. I think Dortmund and Man City will go through in that one, if I'm absolutely honest. Right.
Yeah.
All eyes on Graham Potter. In the Champions League, what's he going to do? Comes out in a suit, has a fresh haircut. It finished 1-1. I'm not surprised at this result, if I'm absolutely honest, because I think Salzburg are a bit of a banana skin. Obviously started off with Raheem Sterling scoring and, things looking good for Chelsea and all that good stuff. But for the build-up for their goal,
Well, that's the thing. It was an odd one because when I watched this was the one I started to watch and then got bored and put the goal through on. I was just interested to see who played where, and I still had no idea whilst watching it. It was like, well, Thiago Silva's at centre back, and that's all I've got. But I think as the game went on, Sterling was playing left wing back, which it's odd, but we've seen Graham Potter do. He's had random lads at Brighton play wing back, so maybe it's just something he's going with. Havertz looked okay in the bits I've seen. Reece James, lazy defensively, but he's not called Trent, so we can't bring that up. But yeah, you mentioned Thiago Silva there. From what I've seen, it's not the same back three as what Tuchel was playing, because when Tuchel had a back three, it was a back three all the time, whereas where Thiago Silva got caught out on the ball, maybe they changed formation by then, he was out at left back. That bloke's nearly 40. He should not be moving. But yeah, it's a weak, lazy tackle that deserved to be punished. And then, well, as per Laqueta, they should have taken that Barca money and run, I reckon. Because I think he's one of the better fullbacks in the Premier League era. But yeah, I don't think he's up to the task anymore. But no, from what I've seen, from what I saw of the game in bits and bobs, there was some interesting stuff. It's the most I've ever seen Jorginho move. Mason Mount back in midfield rather than being in the front line. I think that should be interesting to keep an eye on. But I think it's a tough game for Potter to use some of these ideas. But he has 2 weeks off. It's almost a shame he went to Chelsea, because he went from being like one of the most likeable managers at one of the most likeable teams. Now he's like at Chelsea, and like nobody likes Chelsea outside of Chelsea. Yeah. So I have to hate, But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can get the best out of Havertz, Aubameyang. I think Sterling's been quietly quite good, to be fair to him, so maybe not him. But yeah, he's got to get the forward line clicking, which was probably an issue at Brighton, to be fair. But he never had a 70 mil Kai Havertz and Aubameyang, who's probably one of the better strikers of the last 10 years or so. So it should be interesting to see.
It should be interesting. I want to see how he kind of operates with that kind of high pressure job. And let's be honest, it is a high pressure job. And I agree with you. I like Graham Potter as well, and not anymore. In the other game in that group, Milan 3, Zagreb 1. We'll move on. I think that one pretty much went how we kind of expected it to. I want to move on to Group H. And I want to, first of all, address Juventus. Now, over the weekend, they had a bit of a sucker punch. They were losing over the weekend. And it was a bit like, oh, shit, what's happening here? For them, it was 2-0. It looked pretty bad. Against I can't even say their name, but I'm gonna try Salernitana.
That's what I would have went with.
Yeah, they were 2-0 down. You're like, shit. And then it's 2-1. It's 2-2. They score what they think is the winner. Milik takes off his shirt, gets sent off. VAR has a look at it, incorrectly rules it off. And so they go into this game and they lose 2-1 at home to Benfica. Like, this is not Juventus. Like, they look, and like people say, oh, the old lady because of their nickname, but they just look so off it.
Well, they've gone from old lady to deceased lady, I think. Oh. I think gone over the hill and past her at this point. It's just, from when we were improving as a club, I think everyone was like, well, look at Juventus. They don't really sign superstars, but they're dominant, etc. That's kind of what we should do. Um,
Ronaldo fucked them over, let's be honest.
well, pretty much, yeah. But even beyond that, like their signings this summer alone, where they sold De Ligt to superstar money, but it wasn't a superstar. They sold De Ligt. Got Bremer. I have no idea if he's any good. But then Paul Pogba on a free, who probably got, I don't know, probably like 20 mil signing on. Di Maria on a free, probably similar. And they're probably both on at least 300 to 400 grand a week. Why? Like Di Maria, fair enough, because he was actually good at PSG. Pogba's been garbage since he was at Juventus. Why? And now he's injured. You signed him injured as well. So if you were looking to refresh with Pogba, why? You could have got any random Serie A midfielder because you're Juventus. I don't care how much Inter Milan and AC Milan have improved. You're still the financial powerhouse in that league. You should be doing what Bayern Munich. You were doing what Bayern Munich were doing. You were just buying all the best talent from that country. You did it with Chiesa, who I know got that nasty injury and stuff like that, but they just went away from what worked for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think this is just the culmination of it. But I know Juve don't really sack managers in seasons, but this season there's a World Cup break, so maybe they get rid of Allegri and get Tuchel will be linked, Pochettino will be linked, but maybe just some young manager with fresher ideas that isn't Pirlo, who literally hasn't had any experience in football management. So yeah, maybe get younger, and the whole side needs to get younger because still playing like Bonucci, and if Chiellini, I think people were saying if Italy were in the World Cup, Chiellini would have still been there. So they would have been starting 40-year-olds at centre back still. So it's like you can't do that anymore. Look at Milan. They've got Tomori at centre back, that Kalulu at centre back. Get younger. That's how the Milan clubs improved. They got younger and more defined, whereas Inter Milan got less defined and older. They've just done it the opposite way around.
Yeah, it is. It's really quite worrying for them. And, you know, I see a lot of angst on social media from their supporters. It's not looking great. And yeah, I have no idea what Allegri's been doing whilst, you know, he's been away from football, because I used to really like Allegri as a manager. You know, his first stint at Juve, I actually thought he did good. And you watch them now, you're like thinking shit. And, you know, guy's lost his hair and everything. But, you know, it's not looking good. Let's see what happens there, whether they do actually bite the bullet and sack their manager, because I think a lot of people are calling for it now. I think they're fed up with what they're seeing.
He seemed to take on what Conte had built there, didn't he? So maybe he's one of them Ancelotti lads where he final piece, bit of seasoning on the top, and he'll improve them. Yeah. Whereas he's maybe not a Conte who built up Juve or what they were. So maybe it was just the wrong type of job for him. But he took didn't he take 2 or 3 years off? So yeah, maybe coaching did develop in that time because Klopp became, well, gegenpress and all that jazz became the forefront of football, and nobody else can do what Pep's doing. So maybe them couple of years out, just football overtook what he was.
Yeah, maybe when he actually took a break from football, he actually took a break from football. Because I actually assumed that people would work on their craft or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Like Eddie Howe figured out how to defend.
Yeah, so things are not looking great for Juve. Let's talk about briefly about the other game. Maccabi Haifa 1, PSG 3. I think what was really intriguing about this one was Maccabi Haifa took the lead with a surprise opener, but all three of PSG superstars got in on the scoring. Messi opened it up with Mbappe assist. Messi then returning the favour for Mbappe to get the second, and then Neymar closing the deal. It's pretty much what you'd expect. Do you think the big threat in Europe? I don't think they play as a team.
I think this manager's clearly got the better ideas than previous ones, because he's talked about rotating the, three petulant children up front, which they already seem to be crying about.
Yes, I've heard about that as well.
Yeah, I think it was on the Totally Football show they were talking about it. I think they're building towards it, but I'm not sure if it's the right year because the midfield, by all accounts, has improved with Vitinha there, and maybe Renato Sanchez can find some form, and then them two and Verratti can work better than signing all the old lads to go with Verratti, and not lads from Everton as well, which will probably help. But the defence, I'm not sure. I obviously don't follow League One because why would you? It's one team league. But Hakimi's one of the best in his position.
Yeah, agreed.
Excellent, but then like Kimpembe is dreadful. Like he's a weakness. Who's the left back? That Nuno Mendes is their young left back, isn't he? I have no idea, but he's meant to be the next big thing in that position. I think they're building towards it, and they seem to get smarter in the summer with I can't remember what their director of football's called, the one who was at Lille and so on. But yeah, I think they're building towards it. I think this might be a season too soon, but I think Messi's out of contract, so he's probably going to go back to Barca. But
yeah,
maybe they target. Oh God, I don't know, but they'll probably be cleverer. Maybe like Rafa Leao or something like that, who seems to be the next big forward. But yeah, I think maybe next year and onwards, when they give Galtier a bit more time and the midfield and defence can fix itself. But yeah, it's not this year, I don't think.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that one. Right, let's move on to, I think, the final set of games, right? Real Madrid's group. So Real Madrid 2, Leipzig 0. Should we expect anything less from the reigning champions? I just think they just are kind of cutthroat elite.
Yeah.
You know, quite late in the day to get it done, though. Valverde opens up the scoring on 80 minutes and then Asensio in injury time. But yeah, I think that one just went how it was meant to. The other game in the group was Shakhtar versus Celtic. It finished 1-1. I've not been watching an awful lot of Celtic, but I caught up with the highlights, and they do get chances.
Well, I watched the first half of this game. No, I watched like the first 30 minutes of this game, and Celtic were excellent. They genuinely should have been 2 or 3-0 up. So maybe when I think Shakhtar scored a worldie, didn't they? Maybe that just kind of killed their flow or something like that. But that God, why has everyone got a weird name? Ange Postecoglou. He seems like a really excellent manager. So it'll be interesting to see when he does a Brendan Rodgers and moves south, presumably. But yeah, the only thing about the Real Madrid game, Rafa Hodgkinson. God, I can't speak today. Rafa, yes, you podded with him, so you've practiced his name. Rafa on the goal shot, he said Leipzig were the better team. To be fair, but Real Madrid. Well, we've seen this story before, being the better team against Real Madrid and losing. So it's just what they do. It's what they do. They've just got excellent clutch players. I don't think Benzema was playing in this one, but it just goes through the squad.
Yeah, I think Benzema picked up an injury in the previous Champions League.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be out for too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what it's all about. And, Shakhtar, they've got that player, Modric. I believe that's how you say it. And I think that's the one that people are kind of really highlighting, right? I think he's like the young talent to kind of watch and, scored an absolute worldie. But I think with Leipzig as well, didn't they sack their manager when Tuchel got
They sacked him after the Shakhtar game,
yeah. So I guess they might be in like a transitional kind of phase as well. I mean, let's see where they are in their domestic.
I think they beat Dortmund like 4-0 at the weekend, something like that. So the change clearly worked, but yeah, they were bad. They were bad before that, I know that.
Yeah, they won 3-0. Yeah, new manager bounce. Yeah, let's see what happens with them. They're not doing great. They're like 10th in the league. It's not, and you know what? This week, I think there's been some quite good results. But I think, is there anything you kind of want to highlight from the Champions League? I feel like we've kind of touched it all. I mean, anything you'd like to add to that?
It'll be interesting to see if Chelsea can find the feet. That's probably about it. Because I mean, they're only 3 points behind Milan, but they've got to play Milan back-to-back now. So pressure's on when Potter's back after the international break, because I assume a lot of their players will be going. So it's not like he'll just have training time with them. But yeah, pressure's on Chelsea out of all the English clubs, I think.
You know what? Justin said that, when he was doing the prediction for which who's going to go through, he actually said Chelsea are going to end up in the Europa League.
Oof.
Bold prediction. That was that, that dodgeball gif or meme. Oh, that's a bold prediction.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking. And then obviously after the first loss, and he was like, I think I might be onto something here. I was like, okay. But yeah, I'd agree with you. I'm really intrigued to see what Potter can actually do with this Chelsea side and how he actually. I'm quite intrigued to see what he does in Europe. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening to Euro Incision podcast. I actually really enjoyed podcasting there with Guy. He's awesome. He's insightful. He's funny. And it's nice to have somebody on the podcast who butchers names just as magnificently as I do. I'm here for that. Guy, before I let you go, where can people find you on social media? And is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, Twitter's at Guy Drinkel. I think we're doing a main pod on Sunday, which I'll presumably be on. I can't speak, never mind names. I may be more awake then, but I will have some dreadful film review on that podcast for people, and by dreadful I mean glorious. But yes, I'll be on that on Sunday, and then after that, I think me and Ollie Emerson want to do a pod over the international break just to get content out, because me and Ollie are part of the Albi Moreno fan club, so we've always been connected, so it'll be fun to catch up with him. We'll just do a season so far thing and make us both sad again. But yeah, it'll be good to catch up with Ollie. And then rate don't hate if we ever actually have football again.
I fully expect an hour's worth of content of Albi appreciation, best moments at Liverpool Football Club. Anything else, we riot. Guys, do give Guy Drinkel a follow. There's going to be some great content coming your way from him. From my side, I do little Instagram videos. Do check it out. If you're on Instagram, if you want to give me a follow, that'd be awesome. It's at Nina Cows the Show. And I will have a Media Matters out after this podcast with Jonathan Northcroft. Really enjoyed our chit chat about all things Liverpool. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to try keeping myself busy as well during this international break and try doing some more podcasts as well. Not really decided anything yet what to do, but there will be content coming your way, guys. But thank you so much for listening, and take care. And what a nice result to kind of, turn away from the football, because no one really gives a damn about international footy. Till next time, take care and up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.